Hello everybody, I am Hoardergamer, and this is the end of year special for the first year of Hoarder's Comic Flex. I am happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about a whole mess of cool things that came out this year. We are going to have some comic book reviews and also even look at the very near future of comics, all the way to 1 week from today. And also join us for next week, where we're going to have a special episode looking into the future, not just of comic books and not just a week away, but the future in 2023 of gaming, TV, movies, and comic books. So please join us for that. That should be really cool. It'll be the same time, 8 p.m. Central, here on YouTube, or again, at your leisure, whenever you want to watch it. We're going to start today with a review. First up, we have a book that is going to have, I think, a polarizing effect on people. You're going to love it or you're going to hate it. DC versus vampires. I like this series very much. And the end is a shocker. And I'm interested to see... Because, like, I anticipated, right, it ending a certain way. It does not in that way. And it's pretty wild. And I don't know if that's just the end or it's going to continue. So in case you don't know, the king of vampires is Nightwing. And this is kind of like, I think it's more like an Elseworlds or like the DC Black imprint. I'm not exactly sure. Like, it doesn't say that on the issues. But yeah, it's this crazy world where vampires have basically taken over, and the biggest heroes in the DC universe have become vampires, including Wonder Woman and Superman. And the king of the vampires is actually Nightwing. And Barbara Gordon is trying to basically take down the king any way she can, and she's working with Harley Quinn and a number of other members of the Justice League that weren't turned, including, I believe, Jana of the Wonder Twins. And how would a vampire break Superman's skin? I don't remember exactly, but it was clever. It was something clever, Mike. I don't remember what it was. But they did go to lengths to let you know how Nightwing was turned, how Superman was turned, and how certain other, heroes were turned. Green Arrow is one of a few members of the Justice League that survived. Supergirl, they're basically all trying to fight against the vampires and make it so that, Barbara can get to, it's not a citadel, but basically Nightwing kind of like, takes over as king, and it's where he's, located. But yeah, it's a very good series. I like it a lot. I have actually read all 12 issues too. This is one of those rare books where I like, it can be like, yeah, I've read it since the beginning. I'm a fan of vampires too, though. So the idea of like DC vampires I thought was really neat. And as I mentioned to Mike, there's a lot of clever things going on, a lot of little twists on vampire lore and the things you know about vampires, done really well. So I'm really happy with this. But yes, this final issue is going to polarize people. Yeah, people, like I said, they're going to love it or you're going to hate it. There's going to be no one that's going to be lukewarm on this book. A lot of people, I don't think, were expecting this final issue to end the way it does. I think it's wild. I think it's really incredibly ballsy if they decide not to move forward with any kind of storyline. Like, it's pretty intense. It's a very dark book, and it always has been. But yeah, they really went for it, and some people are going to love it and some people are going to hate it. DC versus vampires. Okay. I'm going to expose this one to UV light. Okay, everybody. Now, that's our first comic book review. Usually I don't go into detail saying how things are going to move around with the episode, but this is a special. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Next up, we're going to be talking about the best things in TV, movies, video games, and comic books, of course. So we're going to look at the best of all those things. And we're going to start, actually, with games. I figured we'd start with games because, you know, we had the comic book review to start with. So, you know, when we're going with these lists, let's not, you know, go to comic books again immediately. So, the games for me of 2022, and these are in no particular order. These are just games I thought were really good, that I enjoyed playing. If anyone has any questions about them at all, feel free to ask. I'll give a little bit of info on certain ones. There's quite a few of, you know, of TV, movies, games, comics that I'll be talking about. So I won't be able to put in as much detail in everything I speak about. But it's going to be, I think, a pretty good smattering of different things. So, again, not in any particular order, so don't freak out if you hear about a game and you're like, really? That's your favorite of the year? What's wrong with you, Hoardergamer? You know, so don't freak out, okay? Okay. Gotham Knights. Here's the thing about Gotham Knights. I can step away from it and I can say that while the story is not as strong as like Arkham City or Arkham Knight, I still think it's an excellent take on a Bat family game. I really believe that. I believe the combat is awesome. I love the idea of just going out with a friend in Gotham and fighting crime for like 2 hours or so. It's a really fun thing to do. I would love them to add more than like higher power level outfits. And then also, too, Heroic Assault and Villain Showdown. I know people have been enjoying those two aspects of a non-game as a service more than they've enjoyed Avengers this year. So this game, which got pretty rough reviews, sadly, partially because I think there was so much hype around it. There was an insane amount of hype around this game. Because, like, it took so long for it to come out, right? Hey, Doom, how you doing? But there was that, and then there's also the fact that there was a day one patch that needed to be out before people reviewed this game. And apparently it was not. And then even with that, a patch was necessary, I want to say, 2 weeks after Gotham Knights came out. Roughly about that time frame. So, I feel that if they had just a little bit more time and those patches could have been live for the reviewers, I think the reviews would have been better. I actually give Gotham Knights an 8. I have beaten it, so this is actually a game that I have beaten. So I've seen, you know, the entire storyline. Did the side missions and everything. Didn't complete all the collectibles, most of them. And I even started a new game plus, and I got to level like 42, I think, 43 in gear. But yeah, Gotham Knights, one of my favorite games of the year. Again, this is in no particular order here. It's just on that list. This one might surprise people, everybody. Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is one of the most exciting and enjoyable games I played this year. Exciting because I didn't know anything about it. It just sort of came out of nowhere. So just imagine like the type of characters and the protagonists you have in like a Castlevania game, except you're not controlling them directly. Everything's based on a timer. The character that's like Simon Belmont, his whip, a character with holy water, all these abilities are on a timer. Your job is to find items that you pick up that speed up that timer as you move the character around so they don't get killed by skeletons, bats, werewolves, mummies. It's this really bizarre kind of like fusion of Castlevania and Binding of Isaac. It's very cool. It's on mobile, it's on PC, and it came to Xbox, and it's even on Game Pass. It's anywhere between free. I believe on mobile, I think it's free because there's commercials that are in there, but they're done in a way that isn't terrible, which is surprising. And then it's on PC, I think, for $5 and Game Pass Xbox for $5 if you don't have Game Pass. It is one of the best ways to spend $5. And they just put out an expansion with like 13 new weapons, 8 unlockable characters, and the biggest map they've had yet, which very much reminds me of something from Castlevania, and that was $1.70 for that expansion. Like the most you could pay for that expansion is $2. But the developer, Ponkel, is like, yeah, $2. So, Vampire Survivors is excellent, and it's good to see you, Fax. I hope you're doing well. Next up, God of War Ragnarok. Now, I've not beaten it yet. I'm about, I want to say 16 hours in, maybe a bit further. Everything that was in the 2018 God of War, which I have beaten, is better here. The combat is better. Without spoiling it, the characters you play as are very interesting. The way I say that, you can probably tell I don't just mean Kratos. The beasts you fight are exciting. It's not just going around and fighting Valkyries. There's other very scary creatures there. Misplaced, good to see you. How you doing? So it's all that. Some of the best side missions I've seen in any game. Truly amazing performances. Utterly insane take on Odin. One that you're not going to expect. Like a very subtle and unique take, which it kind of floored me. I was like, that's Odin. But yes, like I said, I'm about 12 to 16 hours in, which is roughly, I guess, half the game. Or maybe a little bit less than half. And I can definitely say, this isn't an actual review, okay? But my opinion is it's excellent. And if you love the 2018 God of War, you need to get God of War Ragnarok. In every conceivable way. From like exploration to making things easier and more fun, all of it, it's better than the 2018 one so far. So, I fought a dragon boss in God of War Ragnarok, which completely amazed me because he was super fast, amazingly animated, just gorgeous to fight this thing. It went through portals around me, like I couldn't even believe the frame rate was keeping up. Like, it was such a cool fight. And there were other boss battles. There's also like random enemies they'll approach you, and they'll be super difficult. You might get defeated by them. Like, it's really cool. Next up, everybody, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Okay. It's not a card game. Cards are in it. It's a RPG with strategy elements, but it's not just a card game. That gives the game short shrift. Like, that's, not giving it all that it should get, from fans and from reviewers. It's really good. And I say this not only as a big comic book and Marvel fan, but as a big video game fan. It's excellent. And it's, in a way, a love letter to Marvel Comics. Name dropping all sorts of awesome heroes that so far haven't shown up in the game yet, but still really cool deep cuts about all that stuff. The bosses. I joke around about this. This game has more supervillains than Marvel's Avengers does after 2 years. At launch. At launch. Isn't it awesome, Doom? It really is great. And you play the game the way you want. Do you want it to be a 50 or 60 hour story? Done. Do you want it to be 100, 200 hours or more? Do you want to have friendships with just about every hero? Done. All of that is possible. You don't even have to focus on the friendships. You could just focus on the story. You could just... you take hours and create your own comic book covers. Like, the game does all this. There's an area called the Abbey, which is your hub, and it's not just a small building. It's like, you know, an abbey, like a church with like the surrounding land around it. Well, this is huge. There's areas you kind of unlock with new abilities, and you can like explore this area. There's chests to find, and some get refilled. The map tells you when the chests are full and when they're, empty. There's so many cool things about this game. Also, if you want the currencies used to like upgrade cards, you can do easy missions to do that. You can get that stuff through easy missions. You play normal missions. You can play hard missions if you want to. You can bump up the difficulty by 6 or 7 levels. I think it's 8 levels total. It's awesome. It's awesome. And definitely Midnight Suns is one of the best games that I played this year. I am roughly, I want to say, 25 to 30 hours in. So I definitely have knowledge of the game, even though I have not beaten it. Okay. I always like to give people the idea of how long I've played something, so they know it's like, you know, I haven't just like dabbled. In fact, we're going to bring up something I just dabbled with in this list, and I'm fully, you know, honest about that. But what I dabbled in was awesome. So, yeah. Okay, next up is a game probably no one has heard of. Nobody Saves the World. Nobody Saves the World is this really cool game that's a mix between a roguelike and Diablo. And you're this character that's kind of like a blank slate. And you become different like little creatures and like inanimate objects and all these different things, and use these powers to get through dungeons. And it's this really cool animation style. Nobody Saves the World was really cool. Now, what I'll have to say about it is, I got about 20 to 25 hours in, and it gets very, very difficult. And at that point, it feels like you need to have leveled up specific abilities, and it's not quite the same experience for me anymore. But what I played for that first 20 to 25 hours, I thought was great. You might get more mileage from it than I did. I thought it was unique and interesting with some really cool encounters and really good writing. So Nobody Saves the World is still on my list of the best things I've played this year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Basically, it's like a sequel to the TMNT arcade game and to the TMNT second arcade game. And it's really good. And there's like fetch quests where you go and actually speak with like characters like Burn, and it's not, oh my god, I can't remember her name now. It's not Norma. But it's super cool. I believe it's 16 missions, so it's lengthy for a side-scroller. The animations are great. There's this really, really clever takes on a lot of the enemies, including the foot soldiers. Like, there are chef foot soldiers. They're running around with chef hats because they're on a TV set. And it's very enjoyable. It's really good. Also, it's affordable, too. I think Shredder's Revenge is like $15 or $20. But yeah, it's great. You'll probably play through it more than once. You'll probably replay the missions. And again, with 16 missions, that doesn't seem long, but if you're looking at like a side scroller, it's a few hours to get through it. And most side scrollers are honestly about a half hour, maybe an hour at the most. There's also some very clever boss encounters where you have to be like thinking as to how you're going to defeat that boss. Not every boss can just be like, you smack the button and they die. There are a few that require some thinking, which is neat. And it's a really cool, deep bench of villains in the TMNT universe. So, okay. Next up is a game probably a lot of you forgot, but we're like hot and heavy on earlier in the year. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I beat it. I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought as a 25 to 30 hour campaign, it was really funny. Not all the jokes land, but for me, a lot of them did. It's also very interesting to look at Tina's psyche and how constant war and a Mad Max type universe have affected her and her development as she's gotten older. So that's interesting. I will say the end game was quite disappointing. Like, it got boring very quickly. And, like, the expansions were just like, here's a new boss in a different version of said end game without, like, new objectives. So that was disappointing. They did add a new class, but I have not played that class yet. So I don't know how good they are. But I know the consensus, the general consensus, is they sadly kind of screwed up with the DLC, which is something that was a surprise because with like Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3, those games had great DLC. Like, people asked me and I was like, yeah, get the version of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands with the season pass, because I was basing it on the great DLC that 2 and 3 had. So I'm sorry, everybody. If it makes you feel better, I had a version with that season pass too. So I haven't even played most of the stuff on that season pass, so hopefully that makes you feel better if you end up getting that version. But no, I think it's really good, especially now. You could probably get it for like, I'm thinking 20 to 30, because it's, it's been out since like March or something, I think now. But yeah, I like the random encounters. Like a game board is really cool too. Like the entire game, there's like a game board and you're moving like your character pieces around and finding collectibles and stuff like that, and like little mini dungeons and random encounters with enemies. So yeah, that I really like. Actually, I'd kind of like to see that in Borderlands 4. Especially the random encounters. That made things pretty exciting and fun. Again, another game a lot of you may have forgotten about because it came out, I think, all the way back in like April or May. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. One of the best Lego games I have played. The only thing where I can't be like, it was a home run, is because certain missions that were in the previous Lego Star Wars games that were covering the movies were better done there than they were here. Now, conversely, the open world and the amount of side missions and everything else and all the Star Wars fan love that's in this game sets it apart, okay? So that part of it is awesome. There are certain story missions that are excellently done. And certain things with like space combat was cool and everything. Now, sadly, there were a number of bugs and things, and it did take, I believe, a few months actually to get a lot of those bugs taken care of. Now, that's a sad issue you have with most Lego games. There's just so much going on in them, and in most cases, it basically affects side missions, not the main story. But yeah, I thought Lego Star Wars: A Skywalker Saga, as a big Star Wars fan, was really great. And it is one of the best Lego games. Again, it's not like, amazing, brilliant, the absolute best, and just destroys the other Lego games. Like DC Super Villains was super great. That was an awesome game. You know, and I still think Lego Batman 2 was great with the explorable Gotham City and everything. So, you know, but this one's still great, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. You've got like 50 hours or more of really awesome side missions and, you know, actually playing through the movies. It covers all 9 of movies of the Skywalker saga. I will admit, I was surprised that the DLC never came out for story stuff. Like, I really thought they would do DLC covering Solo and Rogue One. I totally thought they would do that. You know, basically have one Star Wars Lego game that covers everything after, you know, once the DLC came out. But they decided to do just packs, character packs, which I don't think is terrible, but the game already has, like, gosh, the most, I think, unlockable Lego characters you can have in any Lego gamer that have been. So, you know, I would have gone a different way with the DLC if it was me. And finally, again, these aren't in any order, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. It is a lot of fun to play. I do prefer playing as one of the Ghostbusters than I do playing as a ghost. Yeah, it is a really cool asymmetrical multiplayer game that really gets the license well. Honorable mention, the Evil Dead game is really good too. That can get frustrating, though, having people that don't know what they're doing. Ghostbusters isn't that bad if you're saddled with players that don't know what they're doing. Plus, the soundtrack is very reminiscent of the original 1984 Ghostbusters movie. There's a number of musical beats that are like super similar. Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd are part of this game. And they even added, like, there's a story element. Now, it's basically just like cinemas as characters are talking, but it's neat compared to other asymmetrical games, which really don't have much story to speak of. So, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you can probably get it for, like, I'm guessing $20 to $30 now. It retailed at $40. So, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed is really cool. And also they have the Metal Eating Ghost. I forget his actual name, but he is going to be DLC. Another ghost that you can play as. So, and they have other DLC that's supposed to be free planned for the game. So, yeah. I'm just hoping it has a really good player base, because it also is crossplay, which was a surprise. Okay. Now, honorable mention, these will be much quicker. Okay? Scorn. Basically, H.R. Giger meets David Cronenberg. Creepy as hell. You are alone on an alien planet, and there are denizens, creatures there. It's really wild. It's all about mood and atmosphere, and a lot of puzzle solving, but in a very creepy way. Like, it's gonna really appeal to people that love, like, Alien, Predator, things like that. Scorn. It's also part of Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you could just, you know, download it and try it out and see what you think of it. Roughly, it's supposed to be about 8 to 10 hours. Some of the puzzles are rather obtuse, so that is something to keep in mind. But, like, man, just, like, looking at the walls and the machines you interact with, it's pretty screwed up. It's pretty screwed up. Okay. A Plague Tale Requiem. So, A Plague Tale Innocence, I absolutely loved. The story of a young boy and his sister who's trying to protect him, and he has some serious issues that basically turn out to be supernatural. You know, like always, right? That's always how it is, right? And, yeah, the first game was awesome. I actually streamed it this year. I even played it off stream before I streamed it and was like, wow, that's fantastic. Now, with all the games coming out and everything I'm streaming and playing, I unfortunately have not been able to put a lot of time into Plague Tale Requiem, which is also part of Game Pass. I would say I'm about maybe 4 to 6 hours in, but everything that was in the original game is bigger, There's more combat options. Animations look better. Like, it looks really, really good. And again, that's why I said it's like kind of like a a mention rather than like a review or a preview, because I'm only like 4 to 6 hours in. But what I've seen is great. And if you love the first one, I would definitely try this out, especially if you have Game Pass. Another TMNT game, everybody. I couldn't see putting 2 on my favorites. I had to decide which one would be the favorite list and which one would be on, like, honorable mention. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. Online play for a lot of games you wouldn't expect. I believe last week or the week before, they just announced that they're going to have updates to allow more online play for the games. And then other features are being added. I believe the retail was like 30 or 40 for this game. The Game Boy games are really fun. I will say, like, the save option for the third one's a little disappointing. But, like, you get Turtles 1, you get Turtles 2, the arcade games, you get both of those. You get Turtles 2, the arcade game, the actual NES version, which has a couple different boss encounters and, like, a snow level, and I'm trying to think what the other level is, but it's got a snow level, like at Central Park, which is really cool. And, yeah, the NES game, the infamous NES Turtles game that a lot of people have not finished. I beat it once as a kid. Once. After many, many times of getting in the Technodrome, I was only able to beat it once. But yeah, that was a, great collection of games. And if you're a Turtle fan, it's must-have. Both that and Shredder's Revenge are must-have if you are a Turtles fan. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now, this is really sad, everybody. Really sad. I only got to play the downloadable demo. That's why it's just a mention. But that demo is one of the most adorable, creative 45 minutes that you'll play. I have not had a chance to actually play the entire game, unfortunately. But man, was that demo astounding. Again, this is just a mention, not a review, not even a preview, because I don't know much of the game. But what I saw was just adorable and really well done. So, Kirby. And then we had The Quarry, which is a really good horror experience from the team that did Until Dawn. And it takes place at a camp, and some people are getting killed, and there's kind of a mystery to solve. I don't want to ruin anything, spoil anything, but Ariel Winter's in it. David Arquette. There's a number of interesting actors that are in this. Laura Palmer's mom from Twin Peaks. The Quarry. Now, super quick, and with a bit of anger, my biggest disappointments of the year game-wise. So this will be the juicy stuff. This is the negative moment. So everyone will probably enjoy this most of this stream. Okay, Babylon's Fall. I totally love it when I buy a retail game and then like less than a year I can't even play it anymore. You heard me right. They're basically taking the servers down in January. I believe the game came out in March. I have never seen that from a big, massive company before. Square Enix. And it was made by Platinum Games, and it was a game as a service, and it had some really weird decisions in like unlocks and things like that should have happened much sooner in the campaign. Sadly, though, it was fun to play with friends, or, whoever you could find, because almost no one was playing the game. And the boss battles were excellent. So if you're a fan of, like, Platinum boss battles, that was, like, the bread and butter of this game. That was the fun thing, going and refighting bosses and getting loot and things like that. But yeah, The fact that I have a disc that's going to be worthless in January, awful. Awful. I can't even believe that it is legal to do this, to be honest with you. Full retail price game, less than a year, massive company with money, not like a small little indie that I could understand, oh, they went under, they can't do anything. Servers down, can't play it. Because the game isn't really on the disc. It's a game as a service. And I thought the Anthem situation was bad. If you have the Anthem disc, if you have it downloaded, you can still play Anthem. The servers are still up. That you can still play it. Not Babylon's Fall. Okay, Saints Row. Not terrible, middling. It was okay. It was okay. I don't know if it was rushed or what it was, but it was just very, very average. And like, I had a lot of hope for it. I played it. I did some streaming of it. And I believe in the situation of that game, I had 48 hours to return it because it was a GameStop purchase. And I did. So, yeah. Okay. And this is going to upset a lot of people, and I apologize right now. You might know what I'm going to say. You might be really surprised. Marvel's Avengers, everybody. So, I love that game, and I have met an amazing community behind that game, and like, you know, like chatted with a number of the devs and things, but the situation, sadly, this year with the game was disappointing. You know, we got Jane Foster, which was cool. We got Winter Soldier, and then we got like a few, what do you call those? War zones, and then another OLT. I might be missing like one thing. Oh, and then a ton of skins. A ton of skins that you could purchase. They basically had those every week. But like, for someone that was, you know, playing this game right when it came out, like September 1st of 2020, this was a sad year for the game. And now, you know, it looks like the last year of the game is going to be 2023. We don't even know how long into the year. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to burn bright and, you know, then a Thanos snap in 2024, which is what it kind of sounds like. And what Miller, you know, has basically talked about in a really good article about Marvel's Avengers. See, that one just disappoints me. That one doesn't anger me. Babylon's Fall, that angers me. Okay, everybody. Those are the games. We got the games taken care of. And I might pick up the pace a bit as I talk about the other things we're going to talk about. So, now we're going to look at movies and TV. Again, no particular order, everybody. No particular order. House of the Dragon. Okay? If you like Game of Thrones and you loved all the exciting moments and all the intrigue, everything, not like those oddly long episodes that like just move pieces on a board. Not as bad as like Walking Dead when it did that stuff, but like, you know, if you want that solid like 10 episodes, House of the Dragon season 1 is really good. It's really good. Great performances. A little weirdness with time jumps, but I guess they had to do that because it has to cover a large swath of time before, you know, the events of Game of Thrones. So, next up, What We Do in the Shadows. Colin Robinson, baby to man, using absurd CGI. A toddler performing 1920s songs in a vampire nightclub. A vampire night market with like demons, vampires, and fairies, and a human being that happens to hunt those things is there. lot of great things happened this season on What We Do in the Shadows. And basically, it's based on that mockumentary about vampires in New Zealand. And it even is kind of like the show's created by those creators of that movie, Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. But I believe they stepped away for season 3, or this season they stepped away. So, but yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, I apologize, this might have been season 4. But no, the show's great. The show is awesome, and this is another really good season. Goo Goo Muck by The Cramps. That song I actually did not know until I saw Wednesday. Wednesday on Netflix. A murder mystery. Reminds me of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Jenna Ortega is awesome as Wednesday Addams. Luis Guzman looks visually exactly like Gomez Addams from the comic strips. I really liked it a lot. And her ebullient friend, who's a werewolf, or not quite a werewolf, trying to be one, but, just can't kind of make it, and her family reminds her of that all the time. That's her roommate. She's awesome, and yeah, I really liked it. If anything, the only issue I had is there was this monster, and I thought the visuals of that were just totally goofy and a little bit against the seriousness of what was going on. Christina Ricci's in it, but not playing Wednesday Addams, playing a different character. And Tim Burton, I believe, was the showrunner and directed a number of the episodes. But yeah, Wednesday was really good. I liked it. George and Tammy. George Jones and Tammy Wynette. Okay. Old school country, basically royalty. Michael Shannon, Jessica Chastain. Amazing performances. Excellent. And even if you're not a big fan of country music, I recommend this. The strength of their performances, man, the writing, it's very good. It's a Showtime series. But yeah, George and Tammy. I think there's still a few episodes left. But yeah, very good. Westworld. One final game. Unfortunately, we'll never see that final game. Basically, each season is a puzzle you have to try to unravel before the show does. And it was fun, and I liked it a lot, but sadly, this is the last season. And I think it's really a weak decision. I think they should have had even a truncated version of the final season to just give it an ending for the fans that stayed with it for 4 years. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say 4 years? More like 6 to 8. Because there was massive pauses between when seasons would come out, not just because of COVID. But yeah, Westworld. So that's also a bit of a disappointment, actually, the way that WB handled that. Okay, HBO handled that. Better Call Saul, an amazing show, had an amazing ending. The only thing I think is going to happen is people are going to have constant fights whether this is better or Breaking Bad is better. Okay, Tony Dalton, who is a lovable character on Hawkeye. He was the person with the sword and all that. Plays a terrifying character named Lalo in Better Call Saul. Bob Odenkirk, Rhea Seehorn. Demand the genuine article. Demand a Rhea Seehorn. Not a fake Seehorn, a Rhea one. Just awesome. Giancarlo Esposito. Great show. Excellent writing. Characters that stay true to the character. It's so well done. I highly recommend Better Call Saul. But first, I have no choice. I have to recommend Breaking Bad if you haven't seen it. Okay. It's like I'm giving everyone a homework assignment. Okay. She-Hulk. I very much like Ms. Marvel, but if I'm choosing one show that floored me and ended up breaking the fourth wall and having Daredevil show up and all that. She-Hulk was awesome. I liked it a lot. The ending was a massive surprise. And yeah, it was really fantastic. Tatiana Maslany, amazingly cast as She-Hulk. A lot more of the Hulk than I thought would be in it. I thought he would just have like one scene, and they actually use him pretty well. Okay, Stranger Things. An awesome homage to the 1980s. Movies like Gremlins, Explorers, things like that. And Goonies, of course. And horror and science fiction. This is like the strongest season, I feel. Season 3 was really good. I felt season 2 wasn't as strong. But to me, this is possibly the best season, with Vecna, one of the absolute best villains, and a great mystery involving Vecna. So, yeah, I think the time that we waited for this season of Stranger Things was worth it, and I was really happy with it. Yellow Jackets. What happens when you take Lost, Lord of the Flies, and a group of teenage girls and put them into a story? Yellow Jackets. It is such a complicated, crazy thing that works so well. So basically, there are these young ladies who went and they were going to go to a soccer game on a private plane. They were going to basically get there. Well, the plane crashes. They end up in like a forest in the United States somewhere, and scary things start happening. And is it like drugs? Is it mass hysteria? Is it the supernatural? So all that happens, right, to these young teenage ladies. Then, like 15, 20 years later, we see these characters and how their lives are going after the events of this crash. As a lot of mysteries are happening. And certain characters we're not quite seeing 15 to 20 years later. Or they're slowly showing them to us. So we're like, oh, what happened there? Yellow Jackets is excellent. Yellow Jackets is, yeah, one of my favorite things and one of the biggest surprises. It's also a love letter. I keep saying things are love letters. This is a love letter to the 90s. Grunge rock and things like that. Because that's when the whole incident when the plane happened. And you have very talented young actresses. And then you have counterparts that are older playing that same character. It's an incredibly demanding show. Like, I could not imagine trying to run a show like that with... there's so many balls to juggle in the air. My God, it would drive me nuts. Anyway, Yellow Jackets. Ozark. Organized crime in the Ozarks. Marty and Wendy Bird could not break any more bad than they have. Like, they've done some really repugnant stuff. And a young lady named Ruth has got caught in it. And so has her... I forget if it's her cousin or brother. I believe her cousin. Phenomenal acting. Julia Garner, excellent performance as Ruth. Excellent show. Reminds me of Breaking Bad. At some points, it seems even darker than that. Yeah, everything from like illicit drugs like heroin being sold in the Ozarks to, yeah, this family just sort of completely losing their way and like their moral grounding. It's really good. Ozark. Sandman. Another series on Netflix, as Ozark was and as Wednesday is. Sandman is one of the best adaptations from a comic book to a TV show or movie I've ever seen. Some of the best casting. The actor they have to play Dream, also known as Morpheus, or, you know, Sandman, the Sandman. astounding. There's a serial killer character called the Corinthian. Fantastic casting. Everybody. Death. Dream's sister. Excellent. Desire. Excellent. All across the board is just excellence in getting actors that embody the characters that are in the comics. And the writing and everything is phenomenal because Neil Gaiman basically had a hand in all of this, the actual creator of the comic book. Sandman's great. And luckily it was rewarded. It's getting a second season. Yeah. And if horror fans, Chucky. If you're a fan of Don Mancini and the original Child's Play, and then also the two Don Mancini films, Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, you owe it to yourself to see Chucky, the TV series. Season 1 and Season 2. And yeah, this was Season 2, and it takes place, I believe it's a Catholic boarding school. And yeah, really screwed up. Chucky gets one of the nuns to believe that he's the second coming of Christ. Like, it's nuts. It is nuts. If you're a fan of Chucky, if you're a fan of horror, and it's actually canon to the movies. Like, this is the guy who created the show in the first, or the movies in the first place, Don Mancini. So this is the actual story arc of where things are going. I really like it a lot, Misplaced. I think it's really awesome. And next up we have movies. Again, moving a little bit more quickly because I don't want this to be crazily long. The Batman. An amazing adaptation of the Batman comic books. Some of the best storylines in the Batman comics. Excellent casting again. A Batman that's looking at the world around him and his effect on it. And how he can change that world for the better. And how the smaller voices in society weren't heard, but need to be heard now. Really well done. Really well done. Moments of it are almost like a horror movie. Like when the Batmobile first shows up, when Batman first shows up, it's almost scary. Like, it's super intense. And the take on the Riddler is creepy and disturbing. Paul Dano does a great job. Yeah. The Batman. The Black Phone. Basically a 1970s ghost story and a story of a sister that will do anything to find her brother. Really well done. Excellent kid actors. Ethan Hawke gives a chilling performance. The Black Phone. It's very good. I don't want to say too much about it, but it's awesome. Glass Onion. The follow-up, not really a sequel, but the follow-up to Knives Out, featuring private detective or private investigator Benoit Blanc. It's really well done. It's well written, well performed. A lot of clever things. Certain people didn't like the misdirection, but that's in a mystery. You have that in a mystery. And there are clues all over if you see the movie again to kind of like lead you in certain ways. Glass Onion. I was lucky enough to see it in a theater. There was a 1-week showing in theaters, so I was able to see it before it came to Netflix. So I was really happy about that. Barbarian. I know I've used the term disturbing tonight, but this is by far one of the most disturbing horror movies I've ever seen. Like, even if you see the trailer, it won't tell you what's going to happen. Young woman rents a bed and breakfast. And her entire life is turned upside down. And, you know, there's this dude there at the bed and breakfast. And, you know, you think it's going to be something to do with him, you know. No. Then we go to the owner of the bed and breakfast, who lives in California. It's just crazy. It's crazy. It's violent. It's man, it's like masterfully done. It's super cool. Barbarian. Barbarian. Now, the issue with Barbarian, though, is right now there's no plan to bring it to home video, which is a terrible thing. This is something that should not be constantly happening. I haven't heard of it with a lot of movies that I'm going to be talking about right now. Just about all of these will be available. But yeah, Barbarian's only on, I believe, HBO Max currently. But it's very good and very creepy. And there's moments where you're like, what WTF? You're like, WTF. There's no other thing you could say when certain scenes in that movie happen. The Menu. A interesting horror / thriller. Again, you won't see where it's going. Anya Taylor-Joy, excellent. It's really great. It's really great. Wakanda Forever. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Basically a catharsis at the loss of T'Challa, and for the characters as well as the actors themselves, basically them looking back at Chadwick Boseman and remembering their fondness of him. It's really powerful. It's really well done, and they were in a huge spot to make, a really cool movie after that, terrible tragedy, and they succeeded. I thought it was really good. Also an interesting as hell take on Namor that I was not expecting. There's this scene, it's almost like ballet on the side of this giant ship, and they're like attached, they're like holding on to like cables and stuff. Phenomenal. But yeah, really cool movie. Liked it a lot. X, 1970s, filming a porno at an old farmhouse. But what happens when the owners of the farmhouse find out that they're doing this? Really screwed up. T. West film. And then a prequel happened called Pearl, which I can't say much about because it would spoil elements of X. Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's the perfect name for the movie, because that's where your head will be. It is a wild ride full of anime, martial arts, emotional moments, and honestly, it's the story of a daughter and mother. It's so good. It's so good. As well as the husband that kind of saw the relationship slipping away with his wife. It's excellent. It's excellent. It's probably going to be up for Best Picture. I think it is. I forget. Have they announced Oscar stuff yet? But yeah, it's super good. Nope. Horror sci-fi. Very much in the vein of Steven Spielberg. Jordan Peele, another excellent job. One of the most memorable parts of the movie is a sitcom that never existed, and a terrible accident that happened with the animal co-host on that sitcom. Like, when you see the movie, you'll like know what I mean, but it's like, oh my god. And finally, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Excellent horror movie. Huge surprises that, again, you will never see coming. Like, the chance that you would know what's happening before they tell you. And it makes fun of the people that, the ultra super liberal seeming people that aren't liberal really. And just, they want to say they are woke, but they aren't. And they do terrible things and they're not good people. It's kind of a satire on that. It's really good. It is a bit of a satire on millennials, actually. But not in a cruel way. Just kind of like showing the lens at them. But yeah, Bodies, 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 another really good horror movie. This was an excellent year of horror. See, we had X, The Black Phone, Barbarian, The Menu, Nope, Bodies, 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 and I'm missing movies. I haven't seen Pearl yet, so that's why I haven't brought that up yet. But like, there used to be a point when horror movies would come out and they'd be disappointing. Like, they'd have low budgets, or, you know, they were rushed. Sometimes the acting wouldn't be that good. But like, man, this year was phenomenal if you're a horror fan. Also, this is also the new box office normal this year. Movies were not making the same amount of money at the theaters. People weren't seeing as many movies in theaters as they used to. Avatar is doing really well, and I think it's at $1 billion, or it's about to hit $1 billion worldwide. I truly believe that before COVID and everything, and if Avatar could have come out sooner, I think it would have been more like at about 1.5 billion at this point. So even though that movie is doing phenomenally, a movie that would make $1 billion box office probably now is making 400 to 500 million. Still a great deal of money, but when you're looking at the amount of advertising, which could be 100 million, 200 million for some of these movies, you know, not the same thing. Basically a new normal for Hollywood. And now we have, of course, comic books, everybody. My favorite comic books of the year. Batman and Detective Comics. Chip Zdarsky took over Batman, did the Failsafe story arc, and it was excellent. Ram V, okay, took over Detective Comics. A gothic opera about a very creepy family, a scary family. Really well done. Really well done. Rainbow Rowell doing She-Hulk. Great take on Jennifer. Great take on Jack of Hearts. Really great book. One Bad Day of a Penguin. The Penguin as you've never seen him before. An excellent heist. Reminds me actually of Ryan Johnson. You know, again, you know, Glass Onion, Knives Out. Really meticulous in this one shot about the Penguin who seems to have lost everything and is trying to rebuild his empire. Carnage. Crazily violent. Scary. Some of the best covers of any of the comics coming out this year. Just gorgeous artwork. Also, Ram V wrote that too. The year of the Ram. I call this the year of the Ram because of all the great Ram V stuff. Aquaman Andromeda. Swamp Thing. One of the best arcs of Swamp Thing. Ram V. Like, my God. Venom. Until recently, Ram V was writing that. I believe right now it's L. Ewing. But yeah, just, yeah, awesome. Once Upon a Time at the End of a World. Friendship that takes place between a young woman who lost her family and trying to continue on, and a drifter. And then a time jump, 20 or 30 years in the future, that just blows your mind. That all takes place in the first issue. Excellent writing, really cool, evocative art. I very much like this book. Star Trek, just called Star Trek by IDW, the new series. A mystery, some of the best characters. Benjamin Sisko is back. So there's like a mystery right there. He has a mission. He's working with Data and some of the other most awesome characters in Star Trek. And now we know in issue 3, Q is going to show up. So that's exciting. Like, there have been a lot of Star Trek comics, but this is one of the freaking best. It's really good. And then we have horror books, too. Some horror comics. Bloodstained Teeth. Basically, a vampire is forced to go and kill all the vampires he sired because he was like Mr. Popular, Mr. Rockstar, and sired all these vampires without permission. So this wild road trip with just glorious, trippy artwork, real super colorful and almost looking photorealistic. Really cool book. Little Monsters. What happens when a group of children that happen to be vampires have never fed on human blood? Their entire lives they've subsisted on insects and animals. What happens to this friend group when one of them finds a human being in this post-apocalyptic future? That's what Little Monsters is about. Very good. Very good. Okay. And like I said, Year of the Ram. Ram V just knocking it out of the ballpark with like every book he's writing. Also, a great year of horror. The Closet by James Tynion IV. Really cool 3-part horror series. Ended. Actually 3 issues and it's done. I think there's a trade out now for only like $10 or something. But yeah, that's comics, games, and movies. So that's everything I thought was really awesome this year. Now, we're going to look very quickly at the future of comics, all the way to 1 week from today. First up, Star Trek. Q. Benjamin Sisko. Do I have to say more? Oh, also a murder mystery. Star Trek issue 3. So, as you can see, you could still jump on at this point. It's still going to make sense. And this is one of the best Star Trek comic books I have read in years. Like, this is at the level of, like, the best shows. Really well done. And this issue is going to go where many issues have gone before. Off the screen. Mosley. Mosley has the hammer of God and is out to fight basically technology. Like electronic startups and things like that. And it's from the writer and creator of Farmhand, which is a wild sci-fi horror story about a family and the patriarch who finds a way to grow organs for accident victims and things like that through plants. It's really good. I've read the first 2 trades. It's screwed up and intense. This is his next book, and he's working with Sam Lofty on it, Mosley. So I thought it sounded really interesting. Farmhand was really good, so I definitely wanted to bring this up. Let's see. I'm not going to use a hammer. I'm just going to use a mouse. It's not even a mouse of God, and remove this picture. Spring rolls. Spring. You're probably not here, but Scarlet Witch. A new Scarlet Witch book. And the idea is that if someone is in trouble and they need it, they can have access to Scarlet Witch's shop, and she will use her chaos magic. Steve Orlando's writing this, the current writer of Marauders, which has been a really good X-Men book. Full disclosure, I got to I got to interview Steve Orlando earlier this year. That was a lot of fun. I did that with Hero Mentor. It was real early, though, like January or February, I believe, of this year. But yeah, Scarlet Witch, #1. So, and I believe it's an ongoing series. I don't think it's a miniseries. So, I'm going to use some non-chaos magic and make this book disappear. Batman, as I said, one of my favorite comic books, as well as Detective Comics this year. One of the best, 2 of the best books. The start of a brand new story arc. Whatever became of Bruce Wayne. After the insanity of the last issue and the end of the failsafe story arc, Bruce Wayne is basically a broken ghost walking the streets of Gotham. Although the way they showed us, we don't know if he's like here in our universe or what's going on. But yeah, this should be very exciting. Chip Zdarsky has knocked it out of ballpark with this Batman run, especially Failsafe. One of the coolest villains I've seen in years. New issue of Batman 131. And I'm going to send this one back to the Batcave. Everybody, usually I prime the pump. We really don't have all that much time. I'm gonna do a better job, I think, of timing everything out for the next episode. Again, another special. Next week at 8 p.m. Central is going to be the future of games, comic books, and TV and movies of 2023. So please join us for that episode too, whether it's live or at your leisure. So I try to shoot for anywhere between a half hour to an hour, and we're about 10 minutes longer than usual, so not terrible, but a little longer than I expected. Superman Action Comics. This just came out today, and it's basically something I hate. Not the series, not the book, but something that happens in the book. A retcon. When something happens in the book that changes the status quo and makes things more exciting, but then a writer is like, let's get rid of that. However, this retcon makes the most sense of any I've seen in any comic book. The logic behind it is heartbreaking, and it's really interesting how they did it. I'm interested to see if it's not a true retcon and like they'll find a way around this issue. Basically, Manchester Black has interesting psychic abilities, or ability to control like people's minds and things. He's super juiced up by Lex Luthor, and he makes it so anyone that knows that Clark Kent is Superman is going to die. Just the idea of it will kill people. So basically, has to retcon the fact that he revealed his identity, and that his son John has revealed his identity. So, yeah. Again, I don't usually like retcons, but I felt here it made sense. Also, the take on Lex Luthor. He still comes off as a wounded teenager back when he was in Smallville. And feeling that Clark could have basically revealed that he was the same, in the same situation, lonely as he was, and that would have stopped Luthor from becoming what he did. So that's an interesting thing. Johnson has done an excellent job with Action Comics. This has been a great run of Action Comics. So if anyone's going to do a retcon, the person I'd have faith in is him. Also, Metallo's in play. And we're finding out Superman's different now. Superman is not bound by certain things like distance and like physics. We don't know how or why yet. So that's very interesting too. But very good issue of Action Comics. A great jumping on point. This is a phenomenal jumping on point if you like Superman and haven't read anything Superman in a long time. So, still very good. And one of the only times I've seen a retcon and I've been like, okay, I can see why they did that. I can see how that could make sense and how it leads to some very interesting storytelling. Okay. And this is going to go up, and away. Everybody, I want to thank you all very much for watching this. I want to thank you very much for watching this year, whether you saw like just a few minutes and were like, oh man, cringe, and never watch again. That's fine. Or whether you watch it live, whether you watch it at your leisure, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. We start the new year off with another special episode, like I mentioned earlier, 8 p.m. Central next week. Same channel here, the Doom Squad Gaming YouTube channel. And again, thank you to Doomkiller HD and Doom Squad Gaming for letting me borrow the channel. You can also catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hoardergamer. However, 2023 might be the time period where I look at doing more content on YouTube. I will just say that right now. There's possibly some really cool changes coming to the show. So we'll see about that too. Everybody, thank you very much, and I hope you catch the premiere episode of 2023. Oh, and also Happy New Year's, because I won't see you before then, probably, unless you watch a Twitch stream or something. But yeah, we'll be talking about all the new next week. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you have a great one. Bye-bye.